Well, when I first began to start creating my own magazine during the research section, my main priority was to make sure that my product conformed to existing media text codes and conventions. To explain, codes and conventions are the ingredients that make up a particular media product, allowing the consumer to easily recognise it. My first task was to complete a set of similar text analysis. This allowed me to understand what specific elements were the most recognisable and repeated on each magazine front cover, contents page and double page spread. The next part of the research section was completing and understanding the codes and conventions recognised on each magazine, front cover, contents page and double page spread. The first aspect I noticed on all of the magazine front covers was a large masthead visible in a bold font. This was seen on every single front cover, and the only difference was the colour and font style of the masthead. I used this convention instantly when I began to design my initial ideas for my front cover. This was the element on the basic layout. The way that I developed this convention was during the construction part of my coursework. This was where I used Photoshop to develop my masthead so that it looked appropriate for my magazine's genre of music, which was house music. I named my masthead and name of the magazine Reload. This already associates with a clubbing and electronic music atmosphere. This is because it gives the impression that the music will keep reloading and never stop, so basically means you can't stop dancing. When using Photoshop tools, I also put an outer glow around the masthead. This outer glow signifies the representation of the bright and powerful stage lights that you would typically see at a concert or festival. The colour of my masthead is black, which is also a common convention of house music magazine front covers, rather than a brightly coloured masthead usually seen on a pop music magazine. The next most noticeable convention of a magazine front cover, based on my STAs, was the use of a large main image, typically of a popular artist. In order to conform to this stereotype, I used a basic outline of the main image during my initial ideas and then further developed this idea into real photographs during construction. My STAs and codes and conventions sections hugely influenced my photography. This is because most house music magazines, such as Mix Mag, included an artist who appeared edgy and unique. This included the appearance of a stern facial expression and a slightly aggressive stance, such as having their arms crossed. This is because these features connote their loud, powerful and highly electronic music style. I conformed to these stereotypes by using a model that had short, cropped, spiky hair, which highlights her edgy attitude. The clothes she wore included splashes of bright colour, signifying the energy behind the house music genre. I used props such as headphones due to the fact that DJs form a strong collection of house music artists. It is also a significant convention that some type of DJ equipment is featured in existing house music magazines. When taking the photographs, I encourage my model to look at the camera using direct address, as this is a significant convention of all magazines. When editing these photos, I made my model appear in black and white, whilst picking out the brightly coloured stripes on her jacket to appear in colour. This pop of colour is also a common convention of house music magazines such as Mix Mag. This is how I developed my product to conform to stereotypes. On many magazine front covers, for example Vibe and NME, the background is conventionally plain white. This is a stereotype that I challenged due to the fact that I used a gradient of lilac and white across the background. I produced this by using a diagonal fashion on Photoshop's gradient tool in order to replicate the style of stage lights in beams at a concert. Although I challenged normal conventions, this encouraged my product to look more appropriate to the house music genre, meaning that my target audience would easily relate and recognise the intentions behind my design. In reference to the contents page, a common convention based on my STAs was the repeated layout for each one. This included having columns of writing and information on one side of the page and then having the main image on the opposite side. I saw this design frequently on the Mix Mag magazine, as this was one I referred to a lot. I decided to conform to this stereotype. During my construction of Photoshop, I used a long shot of my model or artist for the contents page and then placed columns of short and snappy information on the other side of her. This had an effect on the audience as it allowed them to read small sections of information and not get too bored. Having an image alongside information also makes it more interesting for the reader. Furthermore, this layout made the contents page appear neat and easily readable. In order to show continuity throughout the house music magazine, I included some of my headlines on the front cover with featured page numbers. The headlines and page numbers on the contents page were visible in bright neon colours, which accentuated the theme of dance and clubbing music, as the bright colours connote excitement. Therefore, my target audience is reassured of the house music genre. When completing my target audience research, it was highlighted that there was a common convention on the double page spread layout. This was the main image. The main image went on one A4 side of the page and the article took up most of the other side. I decided to challenge this convention due to the fact that a neat and structured layout does not represent the atmosphere and vibe associated with house music. We associate house music with letting loose, being free and losing control. Therefore, I created this style by embedding my article around the outside of my images so that they looked connected rather than separated. This way, my target audience understood how I'm trying to portray my genre of house music. Usually on a double page spread, you would see one image which is enlarged significantly. This was something I noticed when conducting my STAs and codes and conventions. The way I challenged this convention was by producing a second image onto the double page spread in my final draft. I used the distortion of Photoshop layers and opacity to make the image look out of the ordinary. The reason I edited the photo in this way is because the lights at a concert are sometimes so overpowering that everything looks slightly distorted. Here the house music genre was highlighted.